Hey guys, tonight we are journeying back in time to a place of immense power and profound sorrow, the forbidden city of Imperial China. But we won't be focusing on the emperors in their dragon robes or the empresses adorned with pearls. Instead, we're going to walk in the silent, silk-slippered shoes of the people who saw everything but were meant to be invisible, the palace eunuchs. It's a story of sacrifice and ambition. A world where proximity to ultimate power came at a devastating personal cost. Frankly, if you were dropped into this life, you'd be lucky to survive the first week, let alone rise through the ranks. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It truly helps the channel find other history lovers like you. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments what city you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see where our little community of night owls is spread across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story doesn't begin behind the towering red walls of the palace. There are no golden tiled roofs, no carved marble balustrades. Your world is a small, mud brick house in a village forgotten by fortune. The ground outside is cracked and thirsty, the color of dust. The wind that whistles through the gaps in the wall carries not the scent of incense, but the smell of barren fields and the sharp, anxious scent of hunger. You are young, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Your memories are a collage of small, hard moments your mother's hand, rough and callous, trying to stretch a single sweet potato into a meal for 5, your father's silent gaze at the empty sky, praying for a rain that never comes, the constant, dull ache in your belly that is your most loyal companion. This is the reality for millions during your era, a life lived on the knife's edge of survival. One evening, as the sun bleeds across the horizon, casting long shadows that look like grasping fingers, a man from the neighboring town visits your father. They speak in low, urgent whispers by the dying embers of the fire. You can't hear the words, but you can feel them. You feel the weight of their conversation settle over your small home like a second truth, heavy and suffocating. You see your mother turn away, her shoulders shaking silently. Later, your father calls you to his side. He doesn't look at you directly. His eyes are fixed on a crack in the floor. His voice is hoarse when he speaks of the emperor, a figure as remote and mythical to you as the dragons in storybooks. He talks about the capital, a place of unimaginable wealth, where even the servants eat their fill of rice and meat. He tells you that there is a way for a boy to enter that world, a way for a boy to not only feed himself but to send back enough silver to save his entire family from the coming winter, and all the winters after that. He tells you that you can be the hero of your family. This is a point of strange and sad complexity. In a culture that prized filial piety above all else, this act, this ultimate sacrifice, was often framed as the highest form of devotion. You aren't being sold, you are offering yourself. You are the lamb that will ensure the flock survives. It's a twisted logic, born from utter desperation. And here lies a question that historians still debate: how much of this was a choice for your father? Was this a calculated decision, or a surrender to a system that left him no other options in for you? A child, is your quiet nod of agreement genuine consent? Or is it the terrified obedience of a boy who has never known anything but a duty to his parents? The decision hangs in the air, unsaid but absolute. There are no tears, just a heavy, hollow silence. Your mother packs a small bundle for you: a patched coat, a stale bun, and a single, small copper coin she has kept hidden in a seam of her clothing. It feels less like you are embarking on a great adventure and more like you are a debt being paid. You are the price of your family's survival. The next morning, before the sun has even risen, you leave the only home you have ever known. You don't look back. You're afraid that if you do, you'll see your own ghost standing in the doorway. You hold your father's hand, his grip unnaturally tight, as you walk the dusty path that leads away from your village. Each step takes you further from the world of hunger and scarcity, and closer to a different kind of emptiness. one you can't yet possibly comprehend. The capital is a distant promise, a shimmering mirage. But first, you must make a stop at a place far more immediate and far more terrifying. A small, unassuming room in a nearby town, where your old life will be cut away for good. The journey is a blur of dusty roads and silent fields. Your father doesn't speak, and you don't ask questions. The single copper coin your mother gave you is a cold, hard knot in your fist. After what feels like an eternity, you arrive not at a bustling city gate, but in a quiet, narrow alley in a nondescript town. The buildings lean against each other as if for support, their eaves drooping with age. Your father stops before a plain wooden door, marked with nothing but a faded, almost invisible symbol that you don't recognize. He hesitates for a moment, his knuckles white as he raises a hand to knock. The sound is dull and flat, swallowed by the oppressive quiet of the alley. The door creaks open, and a man peers out. He isn't imposing or cruel looking. He is surprisingly ordinary, with a calm, almost placid face and eyes that seem to have seen everything and are surprised by nothing. This is the door's Ai Zhang, the knife craftsman. This is his profession, a trade often passed down through generations within the same family, a grim inheritance of specialized skill. They held a monopoly on this gateway to the palace, a service that was both essential and reviled. He looks at you, his gaze not unkind but chillingly detached, like a carpenter assessing a piece of wood. He ushers you and your father inside, into a small, dim courtyard. The air is thick with a strange, heavy scent, a mixture of drying herbs, medicinal powders, and something else. Something metallic and faintly sweet that makes the back of your throat tighten. Bundles of roots and leaves hang from the rafters, casting long, spider-like shadows on the packed earth floor. It is a place of healing, but not of comfort. The cutter leads you into a small side room. This is where the fate of countless boys like you has been sealed. There is no operating table, no gleaming instruments. In the center of the room is a low slung wooden recliner, its surface dark and stained with the memories of past procedures. Beside it, a wooden bucket filled with sand and another with water. On a small table against the wall, a row of knives lies on a piece of silk cloth. They are honed to a wicked sharpness, their blades catching the weak light that filters in through a paper window. Before anything happens, the cutter unrolls a piece of reddish paper. It's a contract. This is a grim, bureaucratic necessity. Historically, this document, sometimes morbidly called a Hanzu like a marriage certificate, was a waiver of liability. Your father has to sign it, or in his case, press his ink-stained thumb onto it. The document states, in formal, emotionals is script, that the procedure is undertaken willingly, that the family understands the risks including death and that they will not seek retribution against the craftsman should the worst happen. You watch your father press his thumb onto the paper. It is the final, official act of letting you go. He has just signed away your old life, and any claim to it, for a chance at a new one. Then comes a moment of debated history. The cutter hands you a small bowl containing a dark, pungent liquid. He instructs you to drink it all. It's bitter and burns as it goes down, a fiery trail from your tongue to your stomach. Some historical accounts mention the use of a morpheizan, an anesthetic powder, or a potent spicy soup to numb the senses. However, historians are still in deep discussion about the true efficacy of these primitive anesthetics. Was this concoction a genuinely effective painkiller, a secret recipe known only to these craftsmen, or was it merely a ritualistic element, a psychological distraction designed to overwhelm your senses with its foul taste and burning sensation, providing little real relief from the physical reality to come as the strange heat spreads through your belly? You don't know if you feel numb or just more afraid. The craftsman speaks to your father in a low voice. It's time for him to leave. Your father's face is a mask of strained composure. He looks at you, and for a fleeting second, his eyes are filled with a desperate, unspeakable sorrow. He places a hand on your head, his rough palm surprisingly gentle. Then he turns and walks out of the room without another word. The closing of the door is soft. Final thud. Now, you are alone with the cutter. He moves with a calm, practiced efficiency. He lights a stick of strong-smelling incense. Its smoke curling towards the ceiling in a grey-white ribbon, a futile attempt to purify the air. He tells you to lie back on the wooden recliner. The wood is cool and unyielding against your back. He begins to bind your upper body and thighs to the chair with strips of cloth, securing you tightly. The ropes are not cruel, but they are firm, leaving no room for struggle. You stare up at the ceiling, at the dancing shadows cast by the hanging herbs. The room has become a cocoon, and the world outside your village, your mother, the boy you used to be, has ceased to exist. All that is left is the scent of incense, the chillingly calm presence of the craftsman, and the glint of polished steel at the edge of your vision. The craftsman begins to speak, his voice a low, steady drone that cuts through the thick silence. It's not a voice of comfort, but of instruction. He details every step of what is about to happen with a clinical, almost academic precision. This wasn't always just for cruelty's sake, it was a part of the process, designed to terrify you into absolute stillness. A sudden movement at the critical moment could mean a botched procedure, leading to a slow, agonizing death from infection or hemorrhage. Your fear, in his hands, becomes a tool for your survival. He explains that this is not an act of destruction, but of purification. Qingshengge. They call it to cleanse the body. He tells you that to enter the sacred space of the Son of Heaven, you must be pure. You must be free from the base desires and worldly attachments that define ordinary men. It's a masterful piece of psychological framing, transforming a brutal act of mutilation into a quasi-religious rite of passage. You are not being broken, you are being made worthy. Your mind, already hazy from the herbal concoction, clings to this idea. You are not a victim. You are an offering. He moves to the small table and picks up his tools. Your eyes are fixed on him, a morbid fascination overriding your terror. He doesn't just use a single knife. It's a set, each with a specific purpose. This level of specialization speaks to a long, grim history of trial and error. You see a small, curved blade, almost like a crescent moon, and another, longer and straighter. The metal seems to absorb the dim light, holding a cold fire within it. He wipes the blades with a cloth soaked in strong rice wine, a primitive form of disinfectant. The sharp, alcoholic smell briefly overpowers the incense. He approaches you, and the world narrows to the space between you. You can hear your own heart, a frantic drumming against your ribs. He works with a speed and confidence that is both terrifying and, in a strange way, reassuring. There is no hesitation. This is a task he has performed hundreds, perhaps thousands of times. You feel a cold, wet cloth on your lower abdomen, then a sharp, searing line of fire. It's a pain so absolute, so alien, that your mind can't fully process it. It's not like a cut or a burn, it's a foundational violation, an error sewer. A scream tears from your throat, but it sounds distant, as if it belongs to someone else. Your body, bound tight, arches against the ropes, a useless, reflexive spasm. And here lies one of the most chillingly practical, and often overlooked, details of the procedure. The craftsman, in one swift motion, inserts a small pewter or goose will plug into the urethral opening. This tiny object, called a biais hua or similar, was critical. Its purpose was to prevent the urinary canal from closing up as the wound healed. If the channel sealed, the result would be a slow, agonizing death from uremia. The success of the entire operation, your very life, depended on this small, mundane-looking plug staying in place for the next 3 days. It was a race against your own body's desperate attempt to heal itself. Your vision blurs. The edges darkening. The pain subsides from a sharp, screaming peak into a vast, throbbing ocean of agony. The craftsman is now working quickly, packing the wound with a mixture of paper ash and fragrant herbs. The ash, being highly absorbent, served as a hemostatic agent, helping to staunch the bleeding. Historians still debate the exact composition of these herbal poultices. Were they primarily antiseptic, using plants with known antibacterial properties, or were they just part of a traditional, ritualistic formula whose real efficacy was questionable for you, lying in a haze of shock? You can only smell the dusty scent of ash and the cloying sweetness of the herbs as they are pressed against your raw flesh. He wraps you tightly in bandages, layer upon layer, until your entire lower torso is a swaddled, immobile bundle. The ropes that bind you to the chair are cut. Two assistants, who seem to have materialized from the shadows, lift you gently from the recliner. Your body is limp, a dead weight. They carry you from the operating room into another, smaller chamber. It is dark and quiet. They lay you down on a slanted brick bed, known as a cane, which is gently heated from below. The warmth seeps into your back, a small, solitary comfort in a universe of pain. The cutter stands in the doorway for a moment, his face impassive. He gives a quiet instruction to one of the assistants, then turns on to leave. The door closes, plunging you into near total darkness. The first, and most violent, part of your ordeal is over. But a new one is just beginning. You are now in a limbo between life and death. For the next 3 days, you will not be allowed a single drop of water. The dehydration is a calculated cruelty, designed to prevent urination and ensure the wound remains as undisturbed as possible. As you lie there, drifting in and out of consciousness, the only reality is the throbbing in your groin and a thirst that feels like it's setting your throat on fire. The next few days, or is it weeks, melt into a single, seamless stretch of suffering. Time loses all meaning, marked only by the shifting of faint light through the paper window and the cycle of pain that ebbs and flows like a tide. You are confined to that small, dark room, a space that becomes your entire universe. The air is stale, heavy with the scent of dried blood, medicinal herbs, and the growing soreness of your own unwashed body. You are not just healing, you are being unmade and remade. This period, typically lasting around 100 days, was the ultimate gauntlet. The initial surgery was a moment of acute agony, but this recovery phase was a protracted war of attrition against infection, fever, and despair. The mortality rate was terrifyingly high. Some sources suggest as many as 1 in 10 boys did not survive this period. Your life hangs by the slender wrist of threads. For the first 3 days, the thirst is a living entity. It's a clawing creature in your throat, a fire in your belly. Your lips crack. Your tongue feels swollen and dry, like a piece of old leather. You dream of water, of streams and rivers, of the simple act of cupping your hands in a downpour. You are watched constantly by one of the cutter's assistants. They are not nurses in any modern sense. They are guards. Their primary job to ensure you don't move, and above all, that you don't drink. On the 3rd day, the craftsman returns. It's the moment of truth. The bandages are carefully unwrapped, the layers of cloth stiff with dried fluids. The reveal is slow and agonizing. Then, the most dreaded part, the removal of the pewter plug. If it comes out and a stream of urine follows, you have survived. The channel is open. It's a moment of profound distress or relief for everyone in the room. If it does not, then your fate is sealed. There is nothing more to be done. You see the assistant's eye with what looks like genuine relief as you pass the test. You have crossed the first great hurdle. From this day forward, you are allowed to drink, first, just a few spoonfuls of thin rice porridge. Then more. The simple, bland taste is the most delicious thing you have ever experienced. But your ordeal is far from over. The wound is still open, a raw landscape of healing flesh. Infection is the new enemy, a silent predator that can strike at any time. The room is far from sterile. Dust motes dance in the slivers of light. Flies buzz lazily in the corners. Every fever spike, every shiver, every strange new ache sends a jolt of terror through you. You watch other boys in the recovery ward for their others. You realize, in various states of healing, succumb to raging fevers. Their bodies carried out silently in the dead of night. This is also when you begin your re-education. You can't just lie there. Your mind must start to change along with your body. An older, failed eunuch, one who perhaps was physically damaged or deemed unsuitable for palace service, is your first teacher. He sits by your bed and begins to drill you on the fundamentals of palace life. His voice is a monotone, devoid of passion. He teaches you how to walk not with a boy's stride, but with a submissive, guiding shuffle. He teaches you how to speak in a quiet, high-pitched tone, using the correct honorificus for every conceivable rank. You learn to refer to yourself not as I but as New Kai, which translates to your slave or the slave. This linguistic shift is profound. It erases your individual identity before you even have one, replacing it with a label of servitude. And then there's the odd, slightly bizarre bit of law you learn. You're told about the importance of laughter, but not your own. Specifically, the importance of recognizing the emperor's laugh. According to some anecdotal accounts, a senior eunuch might quiz a new recruit, what does the Son of Heaven's laugh sound like? The correct answer wasn't to imitate it, but to describe its quality like the joyful cry of a dragon or the tinkling of jade bells. It was a test of your poetic sycophancy, your ability to flatter and mythologize your future master even before meeting him. Historians are divided on how formalized this training in the cutter's den actually was. Was it a structured curriculum, a sort of grim preparatory academy, or was it more informal? A collection of warnings and tips passed down from the weary to the terrified. Either way, you absorb it all. You're a sponge, soaking up the rules of a game you have yet to play. You practice your new voice, your new walk, your new identity. Slowly, painfully, your body begins to heal. The wound scabs over. The constant, throbbing pain dulls to a persistent ache. You are allowed to stand, then to take a few shuffling steps around the small courtyard. Your legs are weak and unsteady. You are a newborn, learning to navigate a body that is no longer familiar. The 100 days are nearly up. You have survived. But as you look at your reflection in a bucket of water, you see a stranger staring back. A pale, thin creature with haunted eyes and a face that has forgotten how to smile. You are no longer the boy from the village. You are something new. You are ready for the palace. The day you are deemed healed, there is no ceremony, no gentle transition. You are simply cleaned, dressed in a plain, coarse tunic, and herded with a few other survivors into a cart. The world outside the cutter's den seems unnaturally bright and loud. Your senses, dulled for so long, are overwhelmed. But it's your own body that is the most alien landscape. As the cart rattles towards the capital, you begin to take stock of the permanent changes, the new normal that will define the rest of your existence. The most immediate and humbling consequence is one you will struggle with for the rest of your life: incontinence. The complex network of muscles that control urination has been permanently damaged. While you survived and the urinary channel is open, you've lost the fine control that everyone else takes for granted. This means a constant, low-grade anxiety, a fear of leakage, and the persistent, faint, telltale odor of stale urine that will cling to you despite your best efforts at cleanliness. This is why older eunuchs often walked with a distinctive, slightly straddled gait and carried thick pads of cloth or towels with them. It was a secret shame, a shared reality that was never spoken of but universally understood among your kind. It was a physical marker of your status as much as your altered voice or smooth chin. Then there is the hormonal void. The source of testosterone in your body has been eliminated, and the cascading effects are just beginning to manifest. You won't go through a male puberty. Your voice, which might have just started to crack and deepen, will settle into a higher, reedy pitch, a sound that will forever mark you as other. Hair will not sprout on your face, chest, or limbs. Your skin will remain soft, almost porcelain-like, and you will not develop a prominent Adam's apple. Over time, your body shape will begin to change in subtle but distinct ways. Without testosterone to promote muscle growth and influence fat distribution, you are prone to a specific kind of physique. Many eunuchs developed elongated limbs, growing taller than their male relatives might have, as the fusion of growth plates in their bones was delayed. Concurrently, fat tended to accumulate around the hips, thighs, and abdomen, creating a softer, more pear-shaped silhouette. You look in the mirror and see a strange hybrid, a body that belongs neither to the world of men nor to the world of women. It is a third state of being, a physical testament to your unique and lonely place in the social order. This brings us to a rather peculiar and debated piece of eunuch physiology, the supposed fountain of youth effect. Because they lacked male hormones, eunuchs were spared from things like male pattern baldness. Many retained a full head of thick, dark hair well into old age. Their smooth, unlined faces often made them appear younger than their chronological age. Records from the Korean court, which also had a system of eunuchs, suggests they had a significantly longer lifespan than their uncastrated male counterparts, sometimes living 15-20 years longer on average. Historians and scientists still argue about this. Was it the lack of testosterone, which can have stressful effects on the body over a lifetime, or was it their privileged lifestyle within the palace free from the dangers of war, famine, and hard manual labor that afflicted most men? It's a strange irony, the very act that unsexed you might also grant you more years in a life that is, in many ways, only a shadow of what it could have been. But the most profound changes are not the ones you can see, they are the ones you feel. You are prone to bouts of intense emotion, sudden, unprovoked anger or deep, weeping melancholy. These mood swings, what we would now understand as a result of drastic hormonal imbalance, were often interpreted by others as signs of a fickle, unreliable, and conspiratorial nature. You are seen as inherently unstable. Your emotions are untrustworthy. You also feel a constant, deep-seated fatigue, a lack of the physical drive and aggression that characterizes other men. A physical inertia settles over you, and with it comes a psychological toll. You are in a state of perpetual vulnerability. In a society that valued masculine strength, you are physically weak. In a culture that worshipped ancestors, you are a dead end, a branch severed from the family tree. This deep-seated insecurity would, for many eunuchs, curdle into a desperate and sometimes ruthless quest for an alternative form of power, political influence, wealth, and control. Your physical weakness would fuel an unquenchable thirst for a different kind of strength. As the car clatters closer to the magnificent, intimidating walls of the Forbidden City, you are acutely aware of all you have lost. But a tiny, hard kernel of ambition is already forming in the hollow space left behind. You have paid the ultimate price for entry. Now, you must make it worth something. The car stops. Not before a grand, sweeping entrance, but at a small, unassuming side gate, tucked away and easily missed. This is the Gate of Divine Prowess, GNWU men, or a similar service entrance. The designated portal for the palace's vast army of servants, suppliers, and lower-ranking officials. The vermilion walls of the Forbidden City loom over you, so tall they seem to lean inward, blocking out the sky. They are less a protective barrier and more a declaration of separation. On one side is the world, on the other, the self-contained universe of the Emperor. You are shoved out of the cart with the other boys, a small, bewildered flock. An older, stern-faced eunuch, his face a roadmap of wrinkles and quiet authority, looks you over. His gaze is appraising, missing nothing. He checks your papers from the cutter, confirming your purification is complete and you are officially an imperial commodity. There's no welcome, no orientation. You are simply property being transferred. Your first steps inside the Forbidden City are a centuries old. You are walking into a city built on a scale designed to make humans feel small and insignificant. The sheer size of the courtyards is breathtaking. They are vast, empty oceans of meticulously laid grey flagstones, polished to a dull sheen by centuries of silent footsteps. The scale is a tool of power. It forces a slow, deliberate pace. To cross a single courtyard is a journey in itself. and you feel exposed, watched by the unseen eyes from the endless rows of windows and balconies. The architecture itself is a language of power and order. Everything is symmetrical, aligned on a perfect north-south axis. The vibrant colors are overwhelming after the drabness of your village and the gloom of the cutter's room. The iconic red of the walls symbolizes joy and good fortune, a bitter irony for you. The yellow glazed roof tiles glitter in the sun, a color reserved exclusively for the emperor, a constant, shining reminder of who is at the apex of this world. Intricate, mythical beasts perch on the roof ridges, dragons, phoenixes, and lions all staring down, silent guardians of the imperial order. You are led through a labyrinth of covered walkways, past intricately carved screen walls designed to block both evil spirits and prying eyes. The air smells different here. The ever-present scent of dust and earth is replaced by the sweet, heavy fragrance of incense burning in giant bronze cauldrons and the subtle, clean scent of wax from polished wooden columns. But underneath it all, you can still detect that faint, familiar odor of Yeren, the secret scent of your brotherhood. A reminder that even in this gilded cage, the frailties of the body persist. You pass other people, and your real education begins. You see a group of officials in elaborate, embroidered robes, their hats adorned with peacock feathers. Walking with a self-important stride, they pointedly ignore you and your group, their faces set in masks of disdain. You see a procession of palace maids, the heads bowed, walking in single file. Their colorful silk dresses a stark contrast to their expressionless faces. They steal quick, curious glances at you, a mixture of pity and contempt in their eyes. You are beneath everyone. Here's a small, peculiar detail of palace etiquette you notice almost immediately: the silence. For a place housing thousands of people, the Forbidden City is an warm quiet. Loud noises were forbidden. People moved with a hushed urgency, speaking in low tones. To laugh loudly, to shout, to run, these were cardinal sins. The silence was a performance of discipline and reverence for the emperor's tranquility. It also created an atmosphere of intense paranoia, where every whisper could be a conspiracy and every rustle of silk a hidden meaning. You are led to the service quarters, a section of the palace far from the grand halls and opulent residences. The buildings here are smaller, plainer, the colors more muted. This is where the eunuchs lived, a crowded, cramped world hidden behind the splendor. You are assigned a space on a king, a shared brick platform bed, in a room with a dozen other boys. There is no privacy. Your few belongings, the patched coat from your mother, feels like a relic from another life, are stowed under the bed. An older eunuch addresses your group. He doesn't introduce himself. He is just a figure of authority. He lays down the law. From this day on, he says, his voice flat, you have no name. Your name is the task you are given. You have no family. Your family is the master you serve. You have no thoughts. Your thoughts are the emperor's will. Historians debate the psychological impact of this initial immersion. Was it a deliberate shock and tactic to break new arrivals, or was it simply the most efficient way to process the constant influx of new servants into a highly rigid system? Whatever the intent, the effect on you is profound. You feel utterly lost, stripped of everything that once defined you. The grandeur of the palace isn't inspiring, it's terrifying. It's a beautiful, intricate machine, and you are its smallest, most insignificant, and most easily replaceable cog. As you lie down on the hard brick bed that first night, surrounded by the quiet breathing of other lost boys, the sheer, crushing weight of the red wall seems to press down on your very soul. You have arrived, but you have also, in a way, completely disappeared. The gilded dream of the palace, the one your father spoke of with desperate hope, evaporates the moment your first workday begins. You are woken before the sun has even touched the yellow roof tiles. In the deep, cold blackness of pre-dawn, there is no gentle rousing. An older eunuch walks through the dormitory, striking a wooden clapper. The sound is sharp, unforgiving. To be late is to invite a beating. You were not assigned to serve a high-ranking consort or the emperor himself. That is a world away. A peak you can't even see from your current position. As a new young eunuch and little eunuch, you are assigned to the lowest rung of the ladder, manual labor. You become part of the army of ghosts who keep the great machine of the Forbidden City running. Your first job is in the laundry service. You spend your days with your hands plunged in tubs of freezing water in the winter and lukewarm, greasy water in the summer. You scrub the endless garments of the imperial household, from the delicate silk undergarments of concubines to the heavy, sweat-stained tunics of the palace guards. Your hands, once of, become raw, chapped, and permanently wrinkled. They lie in the soap burns. You learn to identify fabrics and stains, to fold silk in a way that won't crease it, to handle embroidered robes with the reverence of a religious artifact. A single tear or misplaced stain on a favored garment could result in a severe punishment. Or perhaps you are assigned to sweeping. The vast courtyards you crossed in are now your workplace. With a clumsy broom made of bamboo, you and dozens of other boys spend hours each day sweeping the flagstones. It's a Sisyphean task. The wind carries dust from the north, and the moment you finish one section, another seems to need cleaning. The sweeping is not just about cleanliness, it's a performance of diligence. You must sweep with a certain rhythm, a certain posture of humility, to lean on your broom, to chat with the boy next to you. These are transgressions. Maybe your job is to carry coal for the countless braziers that heat the palace in winter, your face enclosed permanently smudged with black dust. Or you might be a kitchen helper, spending your days in the sweltering heat of the imperial kitchen, washing mountains of vegetables, scaling fish, and staying out of the way of the master chefs. The smells are incredible: roasting meats, exotic spices, steaming pastries, but you eat only the plainest leftovers: rice, salted vegetables, and on a lucky day, a few scraps of gristle. You are surrounded by a feast for the gods, while you subsist on the crumbs. This is why you learn the true currency of the palace. And it isn't silver or gold, it's gongsi connections. You see how the eunuchs in charge of supply distribution skim a little off the top. The head of the laundry service might receive a gift to ensure a certain concubine's clothes are given special treatment. The kitchen steward might trade a choice cut of meat for a piece of information. You, at the bottom, have nothing to trade. You are invisible. A tool. Your only goal is to not make a mistake. Here you encounter a strange, sad detail of your new life: the complete lack of personal possessions. You own your uniform and perhaps a single bowl. Everything else is communal or belongs to the palace. This bred a culture of petty theft. A small piece of fruit, a strip of clean cloth, a discarded trinket, these were treasures to be hoarded. To be caught was to be beaten, but the temptation was constant. It was less about the value of the object and more about the act of owning something. Anything, in a world where you yourself were owned. Historians often focus on the powerful, high-ranking eunuchs who advised emperors, but they sometimes neglect the sheer scale of this underclass. The vast majority of eunuchs lived and died in obscurity, performing these menial tasks their entire lives. The question still debated is about the possibility of upward mobility. Was it genuinely possible for a clever, hard-working boy to rise from the laundry tubs to the emperor's side, or was advancement dependent on catching the eye of a powerful patron, a matter of pure, dumb luck? For now, you don't think about rising. You think about surviving. You learn to be quick, quiet, inefficient. You learn to read the moods of your superiors from the set of their jaw or the tone of their voice. You learn that a direct gaze is a challenge, so you keep your eyes fixed on the ground. You learn that an opinion is a liability, so you cultivate a blank, impassive expression. You are being systematically stripped of your personhood, hollowed out to become the perfect, unthinking servant. Every day is the same: wake in darkness, work until your bones ache, eat a mega meal, and fall into an exhausted sleep, only to repeat the cycle. The grandeur of the palace has become your prison, and its quiet, rhythmic work is your sentence. After months of back-breaking, mind-numbing labor, You begin to grasp the most important lesson of the Forbidden City. It's a lesson not taught in words but absorbed through the very air you breathe. The most crucial survival skill isn't about what you do, but what you don't do. It's about mastering the rules of your eyes and ears. You learn this lesson the hard way. One afternoon, while delivering a bundle of cleaned linens to one of the lesser consort's quarters, you walk past a screen wall. You hear raised voices from the other side, a junior concubine arguing heatedly with her head maid. You don't mean to eavesdrop, but you pause for just a second. Your curiosity piqued. A senior eunuch, gliding past on silent feet, sees your hesitation. He doesn't say a word. He simply grabs your ear, his fingers like a vice, and pulls you away. Later that day, you are punished, not for what you heard, but for the act of listening. You are made to kneel on a coarse gravel path for hours, your knees raw and bleeding. As a warning, the message is clear: you are a ghost, a piece of furniture that moves. You are present for the most intimate, secret, and politically charged moments of the Empire, but you are to remain functionally deaf and blind. Your job is to see a spilled cup of tea, not the trembling hand that spilled it. Your job is to hear an order to fetch a cloak, not the whispered conspiracy that follows. You train your eyes to see everything and register nothing. You develop a sort of tunnel vision. When you enter a room, your focus is on your task: placing a tray, lighting a lamp, adjusting a screen. You learn to blur the periphery. You might be standing 3 feet away from the Emperor having a tense discussion with his Grand Secretary, but your entire world is the silver platter in your hands. You perfect a vacant, placid expression that betrays no thought, no curiosity, no judgment. A flickering of interest in your eyes could be interpreted as spying. A flicker of fear could mean you understood something you shouldn't have. Blankness is your armor. The same applies to your ears. The palace is a web of whispers, secrets, uncoded language. You hear everything. You hear a favored consort weeping through the night. You hear a prince making a sarcastic remark about his brother. You hear 2 officials discussing the failing health of a rival. You learn to process these sounds as meaningless background noise, like the chirping of cicadas or the distant ringing of a bell. You mentally sort information into 2 categories: direct orders to you, and everything else. The everything else category is a fire you do not touch. This leads to a bizarre, almost comical, aspect of palace life: the feigned ignorance. A powerful eunuch might drop a vase accidentally in a fit of pique. You, and everyone else in the room, will immediately look away, pretending not to have seen it. Someone will be summoned later to clean up the mess, and the event will never be spoken of. It's a collective conspiracy of silence. To acknowledge what you saw would be to acknowledge the powerful eunuch's loss of composure, an unforgivable insult. Historians debate the psychological toll of this constant self-censorship. Did eunuchs truly become as oblivious as they pretended to be, a form of mental conditioning, or did they become the most astute and knowledgeable people in the empire, their minds vast, silent repositories of every secret, every weakness, every hidden alliance in the court? This is the great paradox of the eunuch to survive. You must appear to be the most ignorant person in the room, while in reality, you are likely the most informed. This knowledge, even if you never act on it, becomes a heavy burden. It's a dangerous treasure you are forced to carry. You know which general has a gambling problem. You know which minister's wife is having an affair with a palace guard. You know the emperor's favorite son is not the one he publicly praises. This information hums inside you, a constant, low-level thrum of anxiety. A single slip of the tongue, a knowing glance at the wrong moment, could be your death warrant. So you perfect the art of being a shadow. You learn to enter a room so quietly that no one notices your arrival. You learn to stand against a wall for hours, perfectly still, until you blend in with the decor. You become an expert in anticipating needs before they are spoken, so that you can perform your task and retreat before you are forced to witness or hear anything dangerous. You are everywhere into nowhere. You see all and say nothing. It is a lonely, life-draining existence. You are a living secret keeper, whose first and most important secret is that you know anything at all. This silent, watchful existence is your new reality, and the foundation upon which any future ambition must be built. As you master the art of invisibility, your world begins to expand. You are no longer just a sweeper or a laundry boy. Your diligence and, more importantly, your discretion have been noticed. You are promoted. It's not a grand leap, but a small, significant step. Perhaps you are now assigned to a specific bureau within the vast palace administration. With this promotion, you begin to truly understand the intricate and brutal hierarchy of your own kind. The world of eunuchs is not a monolith, it's a pyramid, just as rigid and stratified as the imperial court itself. At the very bottom are the boys like you were, the nameless, faceless laborers performing the most menial tasks. They are the expendable base of the pyramid. Just above them are eunuchs with specialized crafts. These are the cooks, the artisans, the gardeners, the musicians. They have a tangible skill, which gives them a small measure of security and respect. They are still servants, but they are valued for what they can do, not just for their ability to follow orders. Then you have the administrative eunuchs, the level you are just now entering. This is the bureaucracy that keeps the palace functioning. You are now part of one of the 12 directorates, the core administrative bodies run by eunuchs. Perhaps you are assigned to the Directorate of Ceremonial, responsible for the mind-numbingly complex rituals that govern court life. You spend your days memorizing seating arrangements for banquets, the correct way to present a memorial, and the proper sequence of bows for 100 different occasions. Or maybe you are in the Directorate of the Imperial Wardrobe, keeping meticulous inventories of thousands of silk robes, furs, and jewels. It's here you learn that power isn't just about proximity to the emperor, it's also about controlling process. The eunuch who controls the schedule determines who gets an audience. The eunuch who manages the storerooms decides which consort gets the finest new silk. It's a subtle, bureaucratic power, but it is power nonetheless. Above you are the senior eunuchs, the heads of these directorates. These are men who have survived for decades. They are masters of palace politics, their faces impassive masks that hide sharp, calculating minds. They are the gatekeepers. To get anything done, you must go through them. You learn to bring them gifts, not bribes, of course, but tokens of respect. A small pouch of silver, a rare delicacy you manage to procure from the kitchens, a piece of useful gossip. You learn to be their eyes and ears in the lower ranks, reporting back on the mood and morale of the junior eunuchs. You are becoming the player in their game. And at the very top of the pyramid, a pinnacle so high it seems to touch the heavens, is the director of ceremonial himself, the chief eunuch. This man is often the emperor's most trusted confidant, his shadow, his right hand. He controls the flow of information to and from the emperor. He vets documents, manages the emperor's personal schedule, and often has the power to speak in his name. He is, in many ways, the most powerful man in the empire besides the emperor himself. He is a terrifying and inspirational figure. He is what every ambitious young eunuch secretly dreams of becoming. This rigid structure leads to a strange and little-known social phenomenon within the eunuch community, the formation of families. Since you cannot have biological children, you create your own lineages. A powerful senior eunuch will adopt a promising young eunuch, taking him on as a disciple or godson. This isn't a formal process, but an understood relationship. Your godfather will protect you, guide your career, and teach you the nuances of power. In return, you owe him absolute loyalty. You become part of his faction, his network of influence. Your rise is tied to his, and his enemies become your enemies. Historians still debate the true nature of these relationships. Were they genuine mentorships, born of a shared loneliness and a desire for connection in a sterile world, or were they purely pragmatic alliances, cold-hearted political maneuvering to build power blocks within the palace? The truth, as is often the case, probably lies somewhere in between. You realize that to climb this pyramid, talent and hard work are not enough. You need a patron. You begin to observe the senior eunuchs, studying their habits, their rivalries, their weaknesses. You make yourself useful to a rising star in the Directorate of Palace Gates, ensuring his tea is always hot, his inkstone always full. You perform your duties flawlessly, but with an added layer of attentiveness when he is near. You are auditioning. The competition is fierce and silent. You are not just competing with other eunuchs for promotions, you are competing for survival. A misstep, aligning with the wrong patron whose fortunes suddenly fall, can mean your own ruin. You could be demoted, exiled to a distant, undesirable post like cleaning the imperial stables, or worse. The pyramid is a slippery place. The climb is slow and perilous, and the fall is swift and sudden. Your strategy pays off. The senior eunuch from the Directorate of Palace Gates, a shrewd man named Li, takes notice of your meticulous work and silent efficiency. One day, he has you transferred from the anonymous back offices to a position of immense opportunity and terrifying risk. You are assigned to the personal staff of a low-ranking imperial consort. You have officially crossed the threshold from the outer world of palace administration to the inner sanctum of the imperial family. Your new life is a world of suffocating intimacy. You are no longer just a bureaucrat, you are a personal attendant. Your master, or, in this case, your mistress. The Honorable Lady Wei is a young woman, barely 17, recently arrived at the palace herself. She is one of dozens, perhaps hundreds, of consorts, all vying for a single prize, the Emperor's attention. Her small courtyard residence becomes your entire world. The art of serving a master is a delicate, nerve-wracking ballet. It's 1,000 tiny details, each one freighted with meaning. You learn the specific temperature she prefers for her tea. You learn to recognize her moods from the barest flicker of an eyelid or the slight tensing of her shoulders. You learn to arrange the flowers in her chambers just so, to choose the incense that will soothe her frequent headaches, to prepare the zither she plays when she is melancholy. Your job is to anticipate her needs before she is even aware of them. When she shivers, you must already be there with a silk shawl. When she looks weary, a perfectly plumped cushion must appear behind her back. This is not just about comfort, it's about demonstrating your absolute devotion and attentiveness. It proves that your entire being is oriented around her well-being. This creates a powerful, if unequal, bond of dependency. But serving a master is also about managing their emotions. Lady Wei is in a pressure cooker. She is lonely, far from her family, and trapped in a gilded cage where her entire worth is determined by the favor of one man who barely knows she exists. She has moments of quiet despair, fits of jealous rage when she hears the Emperor has visited another consort, and doubts of crushing boredom. You become her silent confidant, her emotional punching bag. You learn to absorb her anger without flinching, to offer silent sympathy without being presumptuous, and to deflect her anxieties with practiced, soothing platitudes. You are her mirror, reflecting back only what she wants to see. This proximity to a member of the imperial family introduces you to a truly bizarre and specific palace custom, the messenger of the night. When the Emperor chose to visit a consort, the entire process was heavily ritualized and managed by eunuchs. The chosen consort would be bathed, perfumed, and stripped of all clothing. She would then be wrapped tightly in a thick quilt and carried on the back of a specially designated eunuch to the Emperor's chambers. The reason for this, historians say, was security. Wrapped like a spring roll, she could not conceal a weapon. You have not reached this level of trust yet, but you see the messengers in the hallways, and you understand that to be chosen for this task is a sign of immense favor. Your relationship with Lady Wei is complicated. You are her servant, but you are also, in many ways, her only true companion. You are the only one who sees her without her mask of courtly grace. She confides in you, telling you of her childhood, her fears, her petty rivalries with the other women. This is a dangerous intimacy. To know her secrets is to hold a double-edged sword. It gives you influence over her, But it also makes you a liability if those secrets ever come to light. Historians have long debated the true nature of these eunuch-consort relationships. Were they purely master-servant, or did they often evolve into deep, platonic friendships, forged in shared isolation and confinement? Some accounts even hint at romantic, albeit official, attachments. For you, your feelings are a confusing mix of duty, pity, and a fierce, protective loyalty. Her small victories feel like your own. Her sorrows cast a shadow over your day. You learn that serving your master means more than just fluffing pillows. It means being her strategist. You subtly gather information for her. Which consort received a gift from the emperor? Which lady-in-waiting has been gossiping? You become her eyes and ears in the wider palace. Just as your patron, Li, uses you for his. You advise her on which senior eunuch to flatter, which powerful consort's birthday she must remember. Her eyes is your eyes. If she can catch the emperor's eye and win his favor, your own status will soar along with hers. You are no longer just a servant. You are a co-conspirator. You are bound to Lady Wei by a web of shared secrets and mutual ambition. The phrase Ban Jun Ru Ban Hu, attending your lord is like attending a tiger, takes on a new, more personal meaning. Your master is not the emperor, but your proximity to him through her means the tiger's claws are never far away. The Forbidden City is a place of profound loneliness. You are surrounded by thousands of people, yet true connection is a dangerous commodity. Your ambition isolates you. Your duty consumes you. The very nature of your body has set you apart from the fundamental human experiences of marriage and family. It is in this vast, echoing emptiness that you, and thousands of others like you, seek solace in a unique and poignant institution, DUIC, or paired eating. The term itself is deceptively simple on the surface. It just means two people eating their meals together. But in the context of the palace, it meant so much more. It was a form of quasi-marriage, a deep, committed partnership, primarily between a eunuch and a palace maid. In a world where neither could have a conventional family, they created their own. Your own paired eating relationship begins subtly. There is a maid in Lady Wei's service, a quiet, observant girl named May. You work alongside her day after day. You see her comforting Lady Wei after a disappointment. She sees you silently anticipating your mistress's needs. You develop a wordless rhythm, a professional harmony. You pass each other in the narrow corridors, and your eyes meet for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. One evening, after your duties are done, you find her sitting alone in a small, secluded garden, watching the moon. You have an extra steamed bun saved from your meager dinner. Without a word, you sit down a respectful distance away and offer it to her. She accepts with a small, grateful smile. You eat together in silence. This is how it starts. It's not a grand romance, it's a quiet sharing of a moment of peace in a world that offers very little. This becomes your ritual. You share meals when you can, scraps of gossip, small frustrations. You talk about your lives before the palace, a past that feels like a dream. You learn that her family, like yours, was poor. She was sent to the palace as a young girl to ease their financial burden. You are both prisoners of the same system, albeit in different cells. You find in her a reflection of your own loneliness, your own quiet desperation. These DUIC relationships were an open secret in the palace. Officially, they were forbidden. Intimacy between servants was a breach of the rigid discipline of the court, but unofficially, they were often tolerated, even by the highest authorities. Perhaps it was a tacit acknowledgement of the human need for companionship. A happy servant, it might have been reasoned, is a more efficient servant. The nature of these relationships varied greatly, a subject historians find fascinating and difficult to parse from the formal records. Some were purely pragmatic. A maid might partner with a eunuch for protection and access to resources he might control. A eunuch might partner with a maid to have someone to manage his living quarters and create a semblance of a domestic life. These were alliances of convenience, but many accounts suggest they were deeply emotional and loving partnerships. Eunuchs and maids would refer to each other as husband and wife, or vegetable husband and wife, Tsai, a term that acknowledged the non-physical nature of their bond. They would pool their meager earnings, look after each other when sick, and provide emotional support in a relentlessly harsh environment, in a place that stripped you of your identity. Your DUI partner was the one person who saw you not as a slave or a tool, but as a person. Your relationship with May deepens. You feel a fierce loyalty to her, a protectiveness that surprises you. You use your growing influence with your patron, Lee, to ensure she isn't assigned to a more dangerous or difficult post. She, in turn, uses her network of friends among the maids to gather information that might be useful to you and Lady Wei. You are a team. There is a strange and slightly comical detail associated with these relationships, the jealousy they could inspire, because a eunuch in a position of even minor power was a good catch. Competition among the maids could be fierce. Fights and bitter rivalries could erupt over the affections of a well-placed eunuch, mirroring the struggles of the high-born consorts in the harem above them. You and May dream of the future, a shared fantasy that keeps you going. Palace maids, if they were lucky and did not catch the Emperor's eye, were sometimes allowed to leave the Forbidden City in their mid to late 20s. You whisper about a life outside the red walls. You could use your savings to buy a small house. You could live together, not as master and servant, but as equals. It is a fragile, almost impossible dream. Most eunuchs never leave the palace. They die in service. But the dream itself is a sanctuary. This relationship changes you. It reawakens a part of you that you thought had been carved out in the cutter's room. It's a dangerous softness in a world that rewards hardness. It gives you something to lose. As you go about your duties, serving Lady Wei, navigating the treacherous currents of the court, you now carry a secret warmth inside you. The quiet smile May gives you as you pass in the hallway is a small anchor of humanity in the vast, impersonal sea of the Forbidden City. Your mistress, Lady Wei, remains a low-level consort, a pretty flower in a garden of thousands, largely unnoticed by the Emperor. Your life is stable but stagnant. The shared dream of a future with May outside the walls feels more and more like a childish fantasy. It is during this period of quiet frustration that you have your first real taste of power, and you discover it is as intoxicating as any wine. It happens by accident. You are delivering a document from your patron, Lee, to an office in the Directorate of Imperial Household. The document is a routine request for new winter silks for Lady Wei's household. As you wait for the clerk to stamp it, you overhear two junior officials complaining. They are responsible for assigning quarters to a newly arrived trade delegation, and the best courtyard has been reserved by a minor prince for a week-long poetry gathering. This complicates their logistics and will surely earn them a reprimand. Normally, you would filter this out as background noise. It has nothing to do with you. But then, a piece of information you filed away weeks ago clicks into place. You remember hearing Lady Wei mention that this particular prince has a terrified aversion to a certain type of hairy caterpillar. That inner information you filed away weeks ago clicks into place. You remember hearing Lady Wei mention that this particular prince has a terrified aversion to a certain type of hairy caterpillar that infests the palace's magnolia trees in the spring. It's a silly, trivial piece of gossip. On a sudden, reckless impulse, you act. As you are leaving, you accidentally bump into one of the complaining officials. You bow deeply, apologizing profusely. In the course of your apology, you mention, as if making idle chit-chat about the changing seasons. Ugh, the magnolias near the courtyard of Peaceful Mists are so beautiful this year. I do hope the caterpillars won't be a problem for the prince's gathering. You say it with a perfect, bland innocence and then take your leave. You don't know if anything will come of it. Your heart pounds with the audacity of what you've done. You have weaponized a piece of information. You have interfered. 2 days later, you hear through the palace grapevine that the prince's poetry gathering has been abruptly moved to a less prestigious, magnolia-free location. The prime courtyard is now available for the trade delegation. The two junior officials have avoided a reprimand. Later that week, the head clerk from the Directorate of Imperial Household, a man who has never given you a second glance, stops you in a corridor. He gives you a slight, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement. And when Lady Wei's new silks arrive, you notice the quality is a grade higher than what was requested. It's a tiny, almost invisible victory, but it sends a thrilling jolt through you. You didn't use force. You didn't raise your voice. You used knowledge. The one thing you have in abundance. You connected to unrelated dots and nudged the vast, ponderous machine of the palace ever so slightly in a direction that benefited you. The feeling is exhilarating. It's a sense of agency, of control, that you haven't felt since before you left your village. This is the classic entry point for a eunuch's rise, exploiting the information gap. You are at the crossroads of countless streams of information: the domestic sphere of the consorts, the administrative world of the bureaucracy, the gossip of the maids and guards. You see how all the pieces connect in a way that the insulated, high-ranking officials never can. This leads to a peculiar, often misunderstood aspect of eunuch power: their role as fixers. Because they operated outside the rigid Confucian hierarchies of the official court, they could bend rules and cut through red tape in ways that others couldn't. An official who needed a quick audience with a busy minister might discreetly ask a eunuch to facilitate it. A merchant who wanted his goods considered for imperial use would pay a handsome fee to a eunuch in the procurement office. Historians are divided on whether this made eunuchs a corrupting influence that gummed up the works of government, or a necessary lubricant that kept the stiff, overly formal imperial system from grinding to a halt. Were they parasites on the system, or were they the system's essential, if unofficial, problem solvers? Your small success emboldens you. You stop to listen more actively, not just passively absorbing information but looking for patterns, for connections, for leverage. You learn that a certain general is desperate for a rare herb to treat his aging mother. You arrange for a palace gardener to procure it for him. In return, the general's aid ensures that the guards patrolling your section of the palace are a little less strict. You learn that a powerful minister's favorite musician is one of the palace's own. You arrange for that musician to be loaned out for a private performance at the minister's estate. The minister, in turn, puts in a good word for Lady Wei with the Empress Dowager. Each transaction is a delicate dance of suggestion and plausible deniability. No direct requests are made, no crude bargains struck. It's all done with hints, favors, and the shared understanding of future reciprocity. You are building a web of influence, one silken thread at a time. The fear you once felt is still there, but now it's mingled with a new, sharper sensation: ambition. The dream of a small house with maids fading, replaced by a much grander, more dangerous vision. You are no longer content to be a piece on the board. You are starting to become a player. Years pass. The Forbidden City has a way of eroding time, with its unchanging rituals and cyclical seasons. You are no longer a young eunuch. The softness of youth has hardened into the sharp angles of a seasoned court insider. Lady Wei, through a combination of luck and your careful maneuvering behind the scenes, has finally caught the Emperor's eye. She is no longer an obscure consort but a favored one, and as her chief attendant, your own status has skyrocketed. You are now a deputy director, your patron Li's most trusted protege, a man of influence in your own right. And then, the ultimate promotion comes. The Emperor, an aging man who values comfort and familiarity over all else, takes a liking to your quiet efficiency. He has seen you attending Lady Wei, has noted your unobtrusive competence. He requests your transfer to his personal service. You have reached the pinnacle. You are now one of a handful of eunuchs who serve the Son of Heaven directly. You have become the Emperor's shadow. Your life is now dictated by the rhythms of a single man. You are the first person he sees in the morning and the last he sees at night. You help him dress in his intricate dragon robes, each garment heavy with symbolic meaning. You stand behind his throne during audiences, a silent statue, your eyes seeing everything. You are present for state dinners, for private meetings, for moments of imperial rage and imperial vulnerability. Your most important role is that of a filter. The emperor is overwhelmed with information petitions from every corner of the empire, reports from his generals, endless memoranda from his ministries. He cannot possibly read it all. You, along with the other senior eunuchs, become his gatekeepers. You read the documents, summarizing them for him, highlighting what you deem important. This is an immense, almost terrifying power. By choosing which petition to place on top of the pile, which report to summarize with a tone of urgency, you can shape the emperor's perception of his own empire. An appeal from a drought-stricken province might get his attention, or it might be buried under a report about border skirmishes, all depending on your choice. You also become the guardian of his private life. You manage his schedule, his diet, his entertainment. You know his moods, his secret anxieties, his favorite foods, his hidden ailments. When he is ill, you are the one who summons the imperial physicians and listens to their hushed, nervous diagnoses. You become the keeper of the most dangerous secrets of all the weaknesses of the most powerful man on earth. This intimate position leads to a very strange and specific duty, one that highlights the bizarre fusion of the domestic and the political in your role. You become the keeper of the records of conduct, or similar secret ledger. In this book, you were required to note down every detail of the emperor's intimate life, specifically when and with which consort he spent the night. This wasn't for gossip, it was a matter of state. It was the official record used to verify the legitimacy of any potential heir. Your quill pen, recording these private encounters, was an instrument of dynastic succession. Historians have long debated the accuracy and influence of these records. Could a powerful eunuch, in collusion with a favored consort, falsify an entry to legitimize a child that might not be the emperor's, or perhaps more subtly, lose the record of a visit to a consort who had fallen out of favor? The potential for manipulation was enormous. You hold the future of the dynasty in your ink-stained fingertips. Life as the emperor's shadow is a state of perpetual, high-stakes performance. You are constantly on guard. A single mistake, speaking out of turn, showing a flicker of emotion at the wrong time, forgetting a single detail of court protocol could mean your immediate downfall. The emperor's favor is a warm, life-giving sun, but it can be eclipsed in an instant, plunging you into a fatal winter. You see what this pressure does to others. You see senior eunuchs, men of immense power, reduced to trembling sycophants, their every word a calculated piece of flattery. You see the intense, venomous rivalries that simmer just beneath the surface of courtly etiquette, as other eunuchs jostle for the emperor's attention. You develop a new kind of loneliness. Your old friends, like me, are now part of a different world. You see her sometimes in the palace corridors, and you exchange a brief, formal nudge. The shared dream of a small house is a ghost that haunts you both. You have chosen a different path. You are closer to the sun than you ever imagined possible, but its heat has burned away your old connections, leaving you isolated in your gilded cage. You have the emperor's ear, but there is no one to whom you can speak your own heart. You are powerful, influential, and utterly, profoundly alone. You have power, you have influence, but, in the Forbidden City, these things are transient. The emperor's favor can vanish overnight. The only thing that feels real, the only thing you can truly count on, is wealth, cold, hard silver and gold. As a trusted attendant to the emperor, you are now perfectly positioned to play the grey game of wealth accumulation. It doesn't begin with grand corruption. It starts with gifts. On your birthday, or on the new year, officials and other palace figures who need your goodwill will present you with tokens of esteem. A beautifully carved jade pendant, a bolt of the finest silk, a pouch of silver for your tea money. To refuse would be an insult, a disruption of the delicate web of unspoken obligations. You accept them with practiced humility, and the line between a gift and a bribe begins to blur. Your position as the emperor's filter is a gold mine. An official from a southern province needs to petition the emperor for funds to repair a canal. He knows that his petition is one of hundreds, so he seeks you out. He doesn't offer you a bribe. Instead, he might invite you to a lavish dinner at his temporary residence, or he might ask for your expert opinion on a rare antique. An antique he insists you keep as a thank you for your wisdom. A few days later, his canal petition somehow finds its way to the top of the emperor's reading pile, accompanied by your subtle, verbal endorsement. The funds are approved. You have served the empire. You tell yourself, and you have also secured a valuable new piece for your growing collection. This is how it works. You become a broker of access and influence. You don't sell state secrets or betray the emperor. In your own mind, you are simply facilitating the necessary work of the government while receiving the compensation you are due for your unique and stressful position. After all, the official salary for a eunuch is pitifully small. This is the only way to build a future for yourself. You learn about the hidden streams of revenue that flow through the palace. The practice of baojiangshou, or expense reimbursement, becomes an art form. When procuring supplies for the emperor's household, from rare ingredients for his meals to pigments for the court painters, it was common practice to overstate the cost and pocket the difference. The merchants are happy to provide inflated receipts, as it ensures they remain the favored suppliers. The officials in the household department who sign off on the expenses get a small cut for their silence. It's a system of institutionalized graft, so deeply ingrained that it's simply considered part of the process. Here you encounter one of the more peculiar and audacious examples of eunuch-led corruption, the rebuilding scam. There are historical accounts, particularly from the late Ming dynasty, of powerful eunuchs deliberately setting fire to a non-essential palace building. Why? Because the director of imperial construction, also a eunuch, would then be granted a massive budget to rebuild it. This budget would be wildly inflated, allowing the eunuchs in charge of lumber, masonry, and labor to skim enormous sums off the top. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was. Was it a common gift or a few legendary instances of extreme corruption for you? It's a stunning lesson in the sheer scale that palace corruption could reach. Your own wealth grows steadily. You have a network of agents outside the palace who manage your investments. You buy property, storefronts, and farmland, all registered under the names of distant, trustworthy relatives. You are building an empire in the shadows, a financial fortress to protect you from the political storms of the court. You begin to indulge in the trappings of this wealth. You wear undergarments of the finest, softest silk beneath your coarse eunuch robes. You bribe the imperial kitchen chefs to prepare your favorite dishes for your private meals. You build a secret collection of art and calligraphy that rivals that of many princes. These are your private comforts, a balm for your lonely, anxious soul. They are proof that you have made it, that the poor village boy is now a man of substance. But this wealth comes at a cost. It makes you a target. Other eunuchs are jealous of your success. Officials who refuse to play your game become your enemies, watching for any misstep. You live in a state of constant, low-grade paranoia. You trust no one completely. You keep meticulous, coded records of your transactions, hidden away where no one can find them. You have a conversation with your old patron, Li, now a frail old man enjoying a comfortable retirement within the palace walls. He sees your ambition, your growing wealth. He gives you a piece of advice. Silver is good, he rasps, his voice thin as paper, but it can be taken away. Land is good, but it can be confiscated. The only thing they cannot take from you is what you build inside other people. He is talking about loyalty, about faction, about family. He is telling you that money is not enough to truly secure your future. You need to think about your legacy. Your patron Li's words echo in your mind. Wealth provides comfort, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problem of your existence. You are a cut branch. You have no children, no one to carry on your name, no one to perform the ancestral rites for you after you die. In a culture obsessed with lineage and filial piety, this is a profound and gaping void. Your power, your wealth, your entire life's work will simply vanish when you are gone. This existential dread drives you to take the next logical step in the life of a successful eunuch. You decide to adopt a son. This practice, known as Shih-shan, was incredibly common among powerful eunuchs. It was the only way to create a family, to build a lineage, and to ensure that there would be someone to inherit your hard-won fortune. More importantly, to protect your legacy. The process of choosing an heir is not something you take lightly. You cannot simply pick an orphan from the street. Your adopted son will be a reflection of you, an extension of your power. He needs to be intelligent, ambitious, and, above all, loyal. You begin your search discreetly, using the vast network of contacts you have cultivated over the years. You eventually find the perfect candidate. He is the youngest son of a poor but respectable distant relative, a nephew or a grandnephew, someone with a traceable, is humble, blood connection to your original family. This was a common choice, as it strengthened the bond and kept the wealth within the extended clan. His name is Wei Yang, the bright, sharp-eyed boy of 10. His family, mired in poverty, is more than willing to give him up for the promise of a future you can offer. It's a transaction, a grim echo of the choice your own father made so many years ago. You bring Wei Yang to the capital. You don't bring him into the forbidden city itself that is forbidden. Instead, you use your wealth to purchase a lavish mansion in the city, a place that becomes your private residence, your sanctuary away from the palace. You install Wei Yang there, along with a staff of servants and the finest tutors money can buy. You become a father. It's a role you never imagined you would play, and you approach it with the same meticulous, calculating intensity you apply to court politics. You visit your son whenever you can get away from the palace. You oversee his education personally. He learns the classics, calligraphy, and poetry, the standard curriculum for a scholar official. But you also teach him the lessons you learned in the palace: how to read people, how to be patient, how to understand the hidden currents of power. You are grooming him not just to be a gentleman, but to be your successor. This is where a fascinating and somewhat murky aspect of eunuch life comes into play. Powerful eunuchs didn't just adopt one son. They often adopted multiple sons, as well as numerous grandsons and nephews, creating vast, sprawling pseudo-families. These were not just families, they were political factions. They were private armies of loyalists. The infamous Ming Dynasty eunuch Zhongxian, for example, had a vast network of adopted sons and godsons placed in key government and military positions throughout the empire. They were his eyes, his ears, and his enforcers. Historians debate the primary motivation behind these adoptions. Was it a genuine, emotional need to fill the void of childlessness, or was it a cold, strategic move to cement power and create a political dynasty that could survive even after the eunuch himself was gone for you? The truth is tangled. You feel a genuine affection for Wei Yang. You see in his youthful ambition a reflection of your own. You take pride in his accomplishments, but you are also keenly aware that his success is your security. His loyalty is your life insurance. You pour your resources into him. You use your influence to smooth his path. When he is old enough, you will use your connections to get him a low-level position in the government bureaucracy. From there, his own talent, guided by your unseen hand, will help him rise. He will become a respected official in the outer court, a perfect complement to your power in the inner court. You will be a two-headed snake, an unstoppable force. Your relationship with Mei, your DUIC partner, changes. She often helps you manage your mansion outside the walls, acting as a sort of surrogate mother to Wei Yang. She sees the ambition in your eyes, the grand scale of your plans. The quiet dream of a small house together has long since faded, replaced by this vast, dangerous enterprise. There is a sadness between you now, a shared understanding of the life you have sacrificed for the one you are building. One evening, you watch Wei Yang practicing his calligraphy in the study of your mansion. His brush strokes are confident and strong. He looks up and calls you father. The word lands with a strange, powerful resonance. You have done it. You have defied your fate. You have created a sun. You have planted a new branch on your severed tree, and in doing so, you have also planted the seeds of a whole new set of dangers and rivalry. Your adopted son, Wei Yan, is your pride and your secret project. As he grows into a promising young scholar under your careful tutelage, you begin to push him towards a career in the government. This is your ultimate ambition, to bridge the gap between the inner court, the palace, run by eunuchs, and the outer court, the formal state bureaucracy, staffed by scholar officials. If you control a piece of both, your power will be absolute. But in doing so, you are deliberately stepping into the arena of your most powerful and intractable enemies, the literati, the Confucian scholar officials. The animosity between the eunuchs and the scholar officials is as old as the imperial system itself. It is a deep, ideological, and personal hatred. From your perspective, they are a group of arrogant, hypocritical men who talk of virtue and morality while secretly jockeying for power and wealth. Just like everyone else, they see you as an abomination, a half-man, a corrupting influence on the emperor, and a cancer on the body politic. This conflict is rooted in a fundamental clash of worldviews. The scholar officials believe they are the rightful guardians of Confucian order. They have spent decades studying the classics, passing the grueling civil service examinations, and earning their positions through merit, or so they claim. They see themselves as the moral and intellectual backbone of the empire. You, on the other hand, represent a different path to power. You didn't earn your position by quoting Confucius, you earned it through loyalty, service, and intimate access to the emperor. They see your power as illegitimate, unearned, and dangerous. They resent the fact that you, a mutilated slave, can whisper in the emperor's ear and undo the work of a dozen ministries. The war between your factions is not fought on a battlefield. It is a covert war of memoranda, rumors, and strategic accusations. It plays out in the subtle politics of the court. For instance, a group of officials from the censor aid the government's official watchdog agency. A stronghold of the most zealous Confucianists might submit a formal petition to the throne. The petition will be beautifully written, filled with classical allusions and high-minded moral arguments. It subject the excessive budget of the imperial wardrobe, which you happen to oversee. It's a direct attack on you, framed as a matter of official responsibility. You can't fight back with their weapons. You cannot write a more eloquent philosophical treatise. But you have your own arsenal. You can ensure that their petition gets lost on the emperor's desk. Or you can whisper to the emperor that the lead censor behind the petition is merely bitter because his own request for a promotion was recently denied. You can also dig up dirt on them. Your network of spies and informants is everywhere. You know which virtuous official secretly frequents gambling dens, which one has a son who is a notorious troublemaker. You can leak this information to a rival official, then sit back and watch the infighting begin. This brings up a fascinatedly nerdy detail of this conflict, the documentary warfare. Both sides would use official documents as weapons. The officials would write memorials dense with historical precedents, arguing that in past dynasties, whenever eunuchs gained too much power, the dynasty fell. It was a veiled threat. In response, powerful eunuchs would often commission their own histories, works that highlighted the contributions of loyal and capable eunuchs of the past, while also subtly documenting the corruption and incompetence of past scholar officials. They were fighting a war for control of the historical narrative itself. Historians are still divided on who was right in this conflict. The traditional narrative, written almost exclusively by the scholar officials, paints eunuchs as an unmitigated evil, the source of all dynastic decline. But more modern scholarship has taken a more nuanced view. Some argue that the eunuchs, with their unwavering loyalty to the emperor personally, as they had no family or clan to be loyal, often acted as a necessary check on the power of the scholar official class, who were loyal to their own regional or familial interests. Was the eunuch faction a corrupting force, or a vital, if messy, part of the imperial system's balance of power? You are on the front lines of this war. When you manage to get Wei Yang a junior appointment in the Ministry of Rights, the pushback is immediate and palpable. The other officials in his department shun him. They give him the most tedious, pointless tasks. They forget to include him in important meetings. They mock his connection to you behind his back, calling him the eunuch stop. You counsel your son to be patient, to endure the slights with grace, to prove his worth through competence, but you also work in the shadows to protect him. The senior official who was bullying him most aggressively suddenly finds his own expense reports under intense scrutiny from your allies in the palace household. The official who spreads the most vicious rumors finds his own request for a new post mysteriously denied. It's a slow, grinding, and vicious war of attrition. You are fighting for your son's future, and for your own legacy. You realize that your personal ambition has now become entangled in one of the central, defining conflicts of your dynasty. The poor boy from the dusty village is now a general in a secret war for the soul of the empire. Your power has grown far beyond managing the emperor's household, or playing political games with the outer court. The aging emperor has become increasingly withdrawn, more interested in his personal pursuits of calligraphy and poetry than in the tedious day-to-day business of governing. He has come to rely on you for everything, delegating more and more of his authority into your trusted hands. It is in this climate of imperial neglect that you are given control over an institution that represents the zenith of eunuch power, a name that will be whispered in fear and awe for centuries: the Eastern Depot. The Dongchang, or Eastern Depot, is not just an intelligence agency. It is the emperor's personal Gestapo, a secret police force run entirely by eunuchs, answerable only to the emperor himself and, by extension, to you. Its headquarters are located just outside the eastern gate of the Forbidden City, hence the name. Its agents are not scholars or soldiers, they are a hand-picked group of the most ruthless and loyal eunuchs, along with a network of spies, informants, and thugs recruited from the general populace. Your new role as its commander transforms you. You are no longer just an influential courtier, you are the master of secrets, the arbiter of fear. The Eastern Depot has the authority to investigate, arrest, interrogate, and punish anyone, from the highest-ranking minister to the lowliest commoner, without going through the formal channels of the justice system. You operate outside the law because you are the emperor's law. Your days are now filled with reviewing secret reports. Your agents are everywhere. They are disguised as merchants in the marketplace, as monks in the temples, as servants in the mansions of powerful officials. They bring you every rumor, every bit of seditious gossip, every sign of dissent. You learn that a group of scholars is meeting secretly to complain about new taxes. You learn that a general on the frontier might have sympathies with a rival clan. You learn that a prince is gathering a private army under the guise of a hunting club. You now have the power to act on this information with terrifying speed. You can dispatch a team of your depot men in the middle of the night. There is no warrant, no trial. A minister who has been a thorn in your side for years might simply disappear, taken to the depot's notorious prison for questioning. The methods of interrogation are brutal and efficient, designed to extract confessions, true or not. This is where the historical reputation of the eunuch secret police becomes so dark. The Eastern Depot and its later, even more infamous counterpart, the Western Depot, became synonymous with paranoia, terror, and injustice. It was a tool to crush political opposition, and in the hands of a corrupt or power-mad eunuch, it could become a weapon for personal vendettas. A little-known but chilling detail of the depot's operation was its use of psychological warfare. Its agents wouldn't always just arrest someone. Sometimes, they would simply let their target know they were being watched. An agent might accidentally drop a document in front of an official, a document containing intimate details of the official's private life, or they might rearrange the furniture in his study while he was out. A silent message that they could get to him anytime, anywhere. This created an atmosphere of pervasive, soul-crushing fear that was often more effective than outright violence. The existence and power of institutions like the Eastern Depot is a major point of contention among historians. Traditional Confucian historians see it as the ultimate proof of eunuch evil, a complete breakdown of the established legal and moral order. They argue that these secret police forces created reigns of terror that destabilized the dynasty. However, other historians offer a more pragmatic, if unsettling, perspective. They argue that in a vast, sprawling empire full of ambitious generals, plotting princes, and corrupt officials, the emperor needed a loyal and ruthless intelligence service that operated outside the normal, slow-moving bureaucracy. Was the Eastern Depot an organ of tyranny? Or was it a necessary evil, a grim tool required to hold a fragile empire together? You wield this tool with cold precision. You tell yourself that you are protecting the emperor, preserving the stability of the throne. When you order the arrest of a group of dissenting scholars, you frame it as nipping a rebellion in the bud. When you purge a rival faction at court, you call it cleansing the government of corrupt elements. You use the language of duty and loyalty to justify acts of pure, unadulterated power. Your relationship with your son, Wei Yan, becomes strained. As a rising scholar official in the outer court, he is part of the very system your Eastern Depot circumvents and terrorizes. He hears the whispers of fear, the stories of disappearances. He looks at you with a new emotion in his eyes, not just respect, but fear. One night, he confronts you in the privacy of your mansion. "Father," he says, his voice trembling slightly, "what they say you are doing, is it necessary?" You look at your son, the boy you have groomed for greatness, and you give him the only answer you know. "In this world," you say, your voice low and steady, "there is the power that comes from books, and the power that comes from fear. They can have their books. We will have everything else." You have reached the summit of your ambition, but the air is thin and cold, and the shadows you cast are long and dull. You are at the apex. You are the commander of the Eastern Depot, the emperor's most trusted advisor, a secret kingmaker, and a man of unimaginable wealth. The boy from the dusty village is a distant memory, the ghost from another life. But as you sit in your opulent private study, surrounded by priceless art and silent servants, a strange and unsettling feeling begins to creep in. You start to examine the person you've become, and you are not entirely sure you recognize him. Your inner world, once a simple landscape of survival and ambition, has become a twisted, baroque labyrinth. The power you wield has fundamentally changed your perception of reality. You no longer see people as people. They are assets or threats, pawns or players. An official is not a man with a family and beliefs. He is a collection of weaknesses to be exploited or a source of influence to be neutralized. A palace maid is not a lonely young woman, she is a potential informant. This cold, utilitarian calculus has been your key to success, but it has also hollowed you out, leaving a void where empathy used to be. Your desires have become distorted, magnified by the limitless resources at your disposal. You started accumulating wealth to protect yourself, but now you accumulate it for its own sake. You find yourself consumed by a ravenous hunger for more, a rarer piece of jade, a larger mansion, a more profitable business. It's a game you play against yourself, a way of keeping score, but you no longer know what winning looks like. The pleasure you get from these acquisitions is fleeting, a momentary distraction from the emptiness that gnaws at you. Your paranoia, once a useful survival tool, has metastasized into a chronic disease. You trust no one. You see conspiracies in every corner. You have your food tasters, but you also bribe the cooks to spy on the tasters. You have your personal bodyguards, but you have agents from the Eastern Depot spy on the bodyguard. You suspect your own adopted son, Wei Yan, of harboring resentments. You even have a nagging suspicion that Mei, your old DUI partner, who still manages your household, might be passing information to your enemies. Your web of intelligence has become a cage of your own making, isolating you from any possibility of genuine human connection. This leads to some bizarre, almost pathological behaviors. There are historical accounts of powerful eunuchs who became obsessed with strange and elaborate hobbies. One might spend a fortune building a private zoo of exotic animals. Another might become a fanatical collector of rare insects. These obsessions were more than just pastimes, they were an attempt to exercise absolute control over a small, manageable world, a stark contrast to the chaotic, treacherous world of the court. You yourself have developed a fixation on dwarf pine trees, spending hours in your private garden, meticulously trimming and shaping them into contorted, unnatural forms. They are perfect, silent, and completely under your control. Historians and psychologists have long been fascinated by the eunuch psyche, stripped of their ability to procreate and placed in a high-stress, high-stakes environment. What happened to their fundamental human drives? Did the desire for family and legacy sublimate into a pure, unquenchable thirst for political power? Did the lack of testosterone, as some early, now discredited theories suggested, make them inherently more prone to cunning and conspiracy, or were their personalities simply illogical? If extreme, adaptation to the unique and brutal circumstances of their lives, it's a classic nature versus nurture question, played out in the most unnatural of settings. You are living proof of this transformation. You feel your emotions have become brittle. You are incapable of the simple joy you once felt sharing a steamed bun with May. Instead, you feel a cold satisfaction when a pull is ruined, a grim pleasure in your own survival. But you are also prone to sudden, terrifying fits of rage. A servant spilling your tea can provoke a volcanic eruption of fury, not because of the tea, but because it's a crack in the perfect, controlled world you have tried to build around yourself. You see the fear in their eyes, and for a moment, it gratifies you. Then, in the silence that follows, you feel only shame and a profound sense of self-loathing. You are haunted by what you've lost. Sometimes, in the dead of night, you dream of your childhood village. You dream of your mother's rough hands, of the smell of the earth after a rare raid. You wake up with a feeling of profound loss, a nostalgia for a life of poverty and hardship that was, at least, simple and real. You have gained the world but lost yourself. You walk through the grand halls of your mansion, your silk slippers making no sound on the polished floors. You touch the cold, hard surfaces of your jade collection. You have everything a man could want, except the things that make a man whole. You are a king in a kingdom of one, the sole inhabitant of a prison you built with your own hands. In the deep, quiet hours of the night, when the ghosts of your past and the anxieties of your future press in on you, you sometimes unlock a heavily lacquered chest hidden in the most secure room of your mansion. Inside, nestled on a bed of silk, is a small, sealed porcelain jar. It is unassuming, yet it is the single most important object you possess. It is your Barbie, your treasure. Contained within that jar are the parts of you that were taken away in the cutter's den all those decades ago. This practice of meticulously preserving the removed organs is one of the most poignant and peculiar customs of palace eunuchs. The cutter didn't just discard them. They were carefully desiccated, often smoked or packed with herbs to prevent decay, and then sealed in a container. This jar was then returned to you, or held for you until you could afford to buy it back. Upon your official entry into palace service, it was the last piece of your original, whole self. For your entire career, you have guarded this jar with a fierce, almost religious devotion. It has followed you from your humble spot on a shared cane to the luxury of your private mansion. It is your most vital secret. To lose it would be a catastrophe far worse than losing your wealth or power. The reasons for this are rooted in the deepest beliefs of your culture. You believed in the importance of a whole body for the afterlife. The idea of Quan Shishi, or a complete corpse, was paramount. To enter the spirit world maimed or incomplete was a terrible fate. It could mean you would be rejected by your ancestors, or worse, be reincarnated in the next life as a donkey or, in a stroke of cruel irony, a woman. Your Barbie was your ticket to a peaceful afterlife and a respectable rebirth. It was your hope for wholeness in the next world, a compensation for your incompleteness in this one. When a eunuch died, his treasure would be carefully placed back with his body in the coffin. A symbolic stitch or might even be made to signify the rejoining. This act of being buried complete was the final and most important goal of a eunuch's life. It was the reason you amassed wealth to ensure a lavish funeral where this sacred reunion could be properly performed. This custom created a strange and sometimes morbid economy around the Baobi. A young, poor eunuch might have to use his first several years of earnings to redeem his jar from the cutter, who held it as collateral. There are even stories, though historians debate their veracity, of a powerful eunuch's treasure being stolen by a rival. This was the ultimate act of sabotage by stealing the jar. The rival not only caused immense psychological distress, but also effectively cursed the eunuch in the afterlife. It was a form of spiritual assassination. As you look at the jar in its chest, you reflect on its journey. It has been a silent witness to your entire life in the palace. It represents the immense price you paid for entry. It is a constant, physical reminder of your sacrifice. Some eunuchs, it was said, grew to resent their Baobi, seeing it as a symbol of their shame and mutilation. They hid it away and never spoke of it. But for you, and for many others, the relationship is more complex. You have developed a strange attachment to it. It is, in a way, your oldest and most loyal companion. It is the one thing that connects the powerful, feared man you are today to the terrified, hopeful boy you once were. It is the anchor of your identity. This deep-seated need for posthumous wholeness also explains why so many eunuchs were devout Buddhists or Taoists, while the Confucian system, with its emphasis on family lineage, effectively excluded you. These religions offered alternative paths to salvation. You have poured vast sums of your wealth into funding the construction of temples and monasteries. You have commissioned a magnificent temple to be built outside the city, a place specifically designated for the retirement and burial of eunuchs. It is here that you plan to be interred, your body made whole again, surrounded by your brothers in fate. You gently close the lid of the chest and lock it. The physical security of the jar is a proxy for the security of your soul. You have spent your life navigating a world that sees you as incomplete, a half person. You have built an empire of power and wealth to fill that void. But, in the end, all of it, the political maneuvering, the accumulation of riches, the command of the secret police is secondary to this one. Simple, desperate hope that in death, you can finally be put back together again. The jar in the chest is not just a memento of the past, it is the key to your entire future. You have reached the pinnacle of what a man in your position can achieve. You are no longer just a commander of the Eastern Depot or the Emperor's favorite. In the court and across the empire, you are known by a new, unofficial title, one whispered with a mixture of terror and doge, Ayuki on Sui, 9,000 years. The Emperor is the one Sui, 10,000 years, a title signifying his divine status and wishing him a life of 10 millennia. To call you 9,000 years is a staggering, almost treasonous statement. It places you just one small step below the Son of Heaven himself. It is the ultimate recognition of your power. You are, for all practical purposes, the regent, the true ruler of the empire. Your daily life reflects this new status. When you move through the palace, a retinue of junior eunuchs follows you, their heads bowed, high-ranking officials, men with prestigious titles and long lineages, bow to you in the corridors. Your adopted son, Wei Yang, is now a minister in the government, and it is an open secret that his words carry your authority. Your every whim is law. You hold court in your own magnificent chambers, which rival the emperor's in their opulence. Provincial governors and military generals come to you, not the emperor, to plead their cases and seek promotions. They bring you lavish tributes, not bribes, that fill your storehouses to bursting. You control appointments. You dictate policy. You move armies. The vast, ponderous machine of the empire moves only when you command it. This period of your life is the one that will be most vividly remembered by historians. Men like Yu Wangzhen in the early Ming, The Yu Chen in the mid-Ming, and the infamous Wei Zhongxian in the late Ming are the figures that define the eunuch dictatorships in the historical record. They are the cautionary tales, the ultimate examples of what happens when the inner court usurps the power of the outer court. But from your perspective, you are simply doing what is necessary. The emperor is weak and disinterested. The scholar officials are corrupt and faction-ridden, more interested in their petty squabbles than in the good of the empire. You see yourself as the only one with the strength, the will, and the loyalty to the throne to hold it all together. You are the state's ruthless, indispensable physician. You are cutting out the cancer of corruption and dissent to save the patient. At least, that is the story you tell yourself. The loneliness of your position is absolute. You are surrounded by fawning sycophants, but you have no friends. Every conversation is a calculation. Every compliment a potential trap. The title 9,000 years is not just an honor, it is a cage. It isolates you completely. You cannot show weakness. You cannot show doubt. You cannot show humanity. You are a symbol, an institution, a locus of fear and power. Your relationship with May, the maid you once shared dreams with, is a distant, painful memory. She now lives permanently in your mansion outside the city, a respected but lonely matriarch of your vast household. You see her on your rare visits, and the silence between you is heavy with the weight of all the things you have become, and all the things you have given up. She manages your household with quiet efficiency, but the warmth is gone. She looks at you not as the boy she once knew, but as the fearsome Jiu Sui. One of the strangest aspects of this period, a detail oft unnoted by chroniclers, is the living shrines that were sometimes erected in honor of the most powerful eunuchs. Local officials, eager to curry favor, would build temples dedicated to you while you were still alive. Your statue would be placed on the altar, and people would be forced to burn incense and pray to it. Historians debate how much the eunuchs themselves encouraged this practice. Was it a sign of their megalomania, a grotesque self-deification, or was it primarily the work of ambitious sycophants? A political tool that the eunuch at the center of the cult might have found distasteful but politically useful. You hear that such a shrine has been built to you in a southern province. The thought is both intoxicating and deeply unsettling. A part of you is flattered by this ultimate symbol of your power. Another part is repulsed by the blasphemy of it all. You, who have spent a lifetime feeling incomplete and unworthy, are now being worshipped as a god. The irony is so profound it borders on madness. You stand on a balcony of the palace one night, looking out over the silent, moonlit courtyards of the Forbidden City. This is your kingdom. You have climbed to the very top of the world. You have power that emperors of previous dynasties would envy. You have wealth to last 1,000 lifetimes. You have a son to carry on your name. You have achieved everything you set out to do. Henlur. And yet, you have never felt more alone. The title 9,000 years is a promise of longevity. But you feel ancient, weary to your very bones. It is the loneliest number in the world. There is no 9,001. There is only you. And then, far above, the 10,000 years, the Emperor. And you know, with a chilling certainty, that the only thing that separates you from him is his continued favor, and his next breath. The world you had built, which felt so solid and eternal, proves to be as fragile as a house of cards. The foundation of your entire existence is the Emperor's favor, and the Emperor is an old man. It begins with a cough, a persistent, rattling cough that the imperial physicians cannot seem to cure. Then comes a growing weariness, a paleness that no amount of rouge can hide. The Son of Heaven, the 10,000 years, is mortal. The entire Forbidden City holds its breath. Every faction, every official, every prince begins to recalibrate their position, like sailors on a ship sensing a change in the wind. For you, this is not just a political crisis. It is an existential threat. Your relationship with the Emperor is personal, built over decades of intimate service and shared secrets. You are not just his chief eunuch, you are his creature, his son and heir, the crown prince. is a man you have largely ignored, and at times, actively undermined. The prince is a stern, traditional Confucian, surrounded by the very scholar officials who are your sworn enemies. You have spent years blocking his allies from positions of power and ridiculing his conservative advice to his father. You have made a powerful enemy, never believing he would one day hold your life in his hands. A frantic, desperate scramble begins. You try to control the narrative. You station your most loyal eunuchs outside the emperor's chambers, restricting all access. You issue edicts in his name, trying to solidify your own position and promote your allies to key military posts. You try to arrange a meeting with the crown prince, to offer a truce, to pledge your loyalty. But he refuses to see you. The doors of the heir's palace are firmly shut to you. You spend your days in a state of high alert, your nights sleepless. The paranoia that has been your constant companion for years now blossoms into full-blown terror. You see assassins in every shadow. You trust no one, not even your most senior lieutenants in the Eastern Depot. You know that they, too, are making their own calculations, preparing to shift their allegiance to the rising sun. This is the classic, terrifying endgame for a powerful eunuch. Your power is not institutional, it is personal. It does not transfer. The moment the emperor dies, your protective shield, your umbrella, collapses completely. You are left exposed, stripped of all authority, a man with 1,000 enemies and no defenders. This historical pattern is grimly repetitive. When an emperor who had favored eunuchs died, the backlash was almost always swift and brutal. The new emperor, often in league with the scholar official class, would use the eunuchs as a convenient scapegoat for all the problems of the previous reign. It was a way to cleanse the court, settle old scores, and consolidate the new emperor's own power. A strange, macabre detail of this transition of power is the scramble for the will. It was rumored that a dying emperor might issue a final edict, a deathbed will, that could dictate the shape of the new government, perhaps even ordering his successor to continue trusting his favorite eunuch. As such, in the final days, there was often a desperate struggle around the dying emperor's bed. The eunuchs would try to coax such a document from the fading monarch, while the princes and officials would try to prevent it, each side accusing the other of trying to forge the imperial will. Historians debate how often these wills were actually real or simply political tools invented by the winning faction after the fact. You are in the midst of this very struggle. You hover by the emperor's bedside, your mind racing. Do you risk everything by forging a final edict that protects you, or do you try to flee, to escape the city with as much of your portable wealth as you can carry? But where would you go? The entire empire is your prison. There is no corner of it where your enemies could not find you. Then, one quiet afternoon, it happens. The rattling breath in the emperor's chest falls silent. The attending physician, his face ashen, gives you a slow, deliberate shake of his head. It is over. The 10,000 years is gone. For a long moment, the room is utterly still. The only sound is the buzzing of a fly against a window pane. In that moment, you are no longer J.I.U.K. Suri. The 9,000 years. You are just you, a man whose protector has just died. The warmth of the sun has been extinguished, and a deep, Arctic cold begins to seep into your bones. You walk out of the emperor's chambers into the corridor, and you see the guards, men you appointed, look at you with new eyes. Their gaze is no longer filled with fear and deference. It is cold, appraising, and empty of all loyalty. Your umbrella has collapsed. The storm is here. The news of the emperor's death spreads through the forbidden city not like a fire, but like a flood of ice-cold water. All activity ceases, replaced by a tense, waiting silence. The formal period of mourning begins, with its prescribed rituals and wailing. But beneath the performance of grief, a furious political realignment is taking place. For you, the world has turned upside down in the span of a single heartbeat. The first sign comes within hours. You are formally relieved of your command of the Eastern Depot. The order comes from the new emperor, the former crown prince, and it is delivered not by a subordinate, but by a captain of the Imperial Guard, a man whose family you had slighted years ago. He is icily formal, but you see the glint of triumph in his eyes. Your fangs have been pulled. Next, you are confined to your quarters within the palace. It is not an arrest, not yet. It is framed as a measure to allow you to mourn in peace. But you know what it is. You are under house arrest. Your network of spies and informants is cut off. You are deaf and blind, a prisoner in the very place where you were once a king. The new emperor moves swiftly. He is releasing your enemies and imprisoning your allies. The officials you had purged are rehabilitated and brought back to the capital with honors. The scholars you had persecuted are hailed as martyrs. Your adopted son, Wei Yang, is stripped of his ministerial post and placed under investigation for corruption. Your entire faction, the vast web of patronage and power you spent a lifetime building, is being dismantled, thread by thread. Then the formal accusations begin. The censorate, your old nemesis, unleashes a torrent of petitions to the new throne, each one a nail in your coffin. They accuse you of every imaginable crime: embezzling state funds, accepting bribes, appointing cronies, shielding criminals, and, the most damning charge of all, deceiving the late emperor and usurping imperial authority. It is a show trial, laid out on paper. Your guilt is a foregone conclusion. This is the great reversal of verdicts Fanan, a classic feature of a new reign, where the heroes of the old regime become the villains of the new. The history of the previous era is being rewritten in real time, and you are its principal antagonist. One day, a group of officials arrives at your quarters to read you the imperial edict. It is a long, elaborate document, full of righteous confusion fury. It lists your crimes in exquisite detail. Your sentences read out. You are not to be given a quick, clean execution. That would be too merciful. Instead, all your properties are to be confiscated. Your family, your adopted son and your extended clan relatives are to be stripped of their titles and either exiled to the farthest, most inhospitable frontiers of the empire, or reduced to the status of common slaves. As for you, your fate is to be a living example of imperial justice. You are to be handed over to the Ministry of Justice to be dealt with by the very legal system you so long ignored. This is a point historians often note: the bitter irony of a eunuch secret police chief being subjected to the legal tortures of the regular bureaucracy he once scorned. The scholar officials, so often the victims of your Eastern depot, now have you at their mercy, and they are eager to repay the favor. The confiscation of your property is a spectacle in itself. Officials descend upon your magnificent mansion in the city. They spend weeks cataloging your treasures. The sheer scale of your wealth shocks the entire empire. Lists of your possessions are circulated to demonstrate the depths of your corruption: thousands of pounds of gold and silver, chests full of jewels and pearls, vast tracts of land, and a collection of art so extensive it dwarfs the imperial collection itself. The discovery of this ill-gotten gain serves to retroactively justify your downfall. A particularly cruel detail, recorded in the downfall of several historical eunuchs, is what happens to your treasure. Your precious pearl BII, in some cases, as the ultimate act of posthumous punishment. The state would deliberately confiscate and destroy it, ensuring that you could never be buried whole. They are not just destroying your life in this world, but also your hope for peace in the next. You hear a rumor that your hidden jar has been found and smashed upon the flagstones of your own courtyard. The news hits you harder than any physical blow. You are left with nothing. The power, the wealth, the family, the legacy, all of it, gone, stripped of your fine silk robes. You are dressed in the coarse tunic of a common prisoner, as you are led out of the forbidden city for the last time. You pass a group of young eunuchs. Their faces a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity. They are the new generation, and they are looking at their future. A cautionary tale in flesh and blood. You were once the 9,000 years. No, you are not even a number. You are just an old, broken man, shuffling towards a dark and painful end. Your fall from grace is not a swift execution. The new regime, led by your enemies in the scholar official class, has devised a more fitting punishment. It is a slow, living death, a humiliation designed to be witnessed. You are not sent to a common prison to be tortured and forgotten. Instead, you are exiled to a place specifically designed for men like you, a retirement temple for disgraced and aged eunuchs. These temples, often located in the quiet, dusty hills on the outskirts of the capital, were a unique feature of the imperial system. They were funded by contributions from powerful eunuchs during their lifetimes, a kind of final resting place. They served a dual purpose. They were a charitable home for the old and destitute eunuchs who had nowhere else to go, and they were a place of quiet confinement for those who, like you, had fallen from power but were deemed not worth the trouble of a public execution. The journey to the Temple of Gracious Repose is your final humiliation. You travel not in a fine carriage, but in a crude, open cart, exposed to the elements and the scornful gazes of the public. People who once would have kowtowed at the mere mention of your name now jeer and throw refuse at you. You are a spectacle, a public lesson in the impermanence of power. The temple itself is a world away from the gilded splendor of the Forbidden City. It is a cluster of simple, grey brick buildings, the roof tiles worn and faded. A small, untended vegetable garden grows in the central courtyard. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke, cheap incense, and the quiet scent of decay. It is a place of profound and weary silence. You are met at the gate by the abbot, an ancient eunuch who has resided here for decades. His face is a mask of serene indifference. He has seen countless powerful men like you arrive, stripped of everything. He shows you to your new home, a small, bare cell containing only a wooden plank for a bed and a single barred window. Your new life is a monotonous routine of prurient menial labor. You wake before dawn to the sound of a resonant bronze bell. You spend hours chanting Buddhist sutras in the main hall, your voice joining the reedy, toneless drone of the other residents. The chants are for salvation, for a peaceful afterlife. But for you, they are just empty sounds. Your hope for that was smashed on the flagstones of your courtyard. You are put to work. You, who once commanded armies and directed the fate of an empire, now spend your afternoons sweeping fallen leaves in the courtyard or pulling weeds in the vegetable patch. Your hands, which once held the imperial seal, are now calloused and caked with dirt. The other residents are the ghosts of the palace. There are old men who were once personal attendants to long-dead concubines, others who were clerks, cooks, and gatekeepers. They are the survivors, the ones who never rose high enough to fall hard. They treat you with a mixture of awe and pity. They remember you as the mighty Ayuki Sui, and they see the wreck you have become. This is where you learn a final, bitter truth about your kind. Eunuchs who died in service, even in disgrace, were sometimes granted a proper burial by the palace. But those who were exiled to these temples often faced a grim and anonymous end. A small, sad detail of these temples was the pauper's furnace. If a eunuch died without funds or a patron to pay for a proper burial plot and ceremony, his body was unceremoniously cremated, his ashes often scattered in an unmarked field. To be burned was to lose all hope of being reassembled in the afterlife. It was the ultimate erosua. The question of what happened to powerful, disgraced eunuchs is a subject of some historical debate. While some were indeed executed in brutal ways, many simply disappeared into this twilight world. Was this an act of mercy by the new emperor, a nod to the eunuch's past service to his father, or was it a more calculated political move? A way to neutralize a powerful figure without creating a martyr or upsetting other factions within the palace. In the quiet of your cell, you have nothing but time. The schemes, the rivalries, the endless thirst for power, it all seems like a fever dream. You think of your son, Wei Yang, exiled to a malarial frontier, and a pain of guilt, a genuine emotion. pierces through your apathy. You think of May, now likely cast out of your confiscated mansion, her fate unknown. Your ambition has destroyed everyone you ever cared about. You become a ghost before you are even dead. You drift through the temple grounds, a silent, shuffling figure. The other eunuchs give you a wide berth. You are a reminder of a dangerous world they were lucky to escape. You are a monument to failed ambition. Years pass. Your body grows frail. Your mind cloudy. You spend your days sitting in the sun, staring at the crumbling wall of the temple. Your mind a blank slate, the fire of your ambition, which once burned so brightly it threatened to consume the empire, has finally dwindled to a single, cold ember. You are no longer waiting for death. You are simply waiting for the waiting to be over. One day, a visitor arrives at the temple. This is an unusual event. The world outside has long since forgotten you. The visitor is a young, earnest-looking man dressed in the robes of a junior scholar from the Hanlin Academy, the Empire's most prestigious intellectual institution. He says he is a historian, tasked by the new emperor with compiling the official history of the previous reign. He has come to interview you. He sits across from you in the dusty temple library, a writing brush poised over a scroll of paper. He is polite, but his questions are like sharp, probing needles. He wants to know about your decisions, your motivations, your relationship with the late emperor. He is not here to hear your side of the story. He is here to collect details that will fit the narrative that has already been decided upon. As he speaks, you realize you are witnessing the final stage of your own destruction. The first was the loss of your power. The second was the loss of your wealth. The third was the destruction of your body's hope for the afterlife. This is the fourth and final stage, the loss of your story. The history of your time is being written, and it is being written by your enemies. The scholar officials, the men you fought against your entire life, are the designated historians of the Empire. They hold the historian's brush, Shih-shan, and with it, they have the power to shape how you will be remembered for all time. Your complexities, your motivations, your moments of loyalty or doubt, all will be flattened into a one-dimensional portrait of a monstrous, power-hungry villain. You listen as he frames the questions. When you convince the late emperor to execute the loyal General Huang, he asks, was it because of the general's opposition to your tax proposals, or a personal vendetta? There is no room in his question for the possibility that you genuinely believe General Huang was a threat to the throne. Your motives are assumed to be corrupt from the outset. This is the great challenge for modern historians studying palace eunuchs. The overwhelming majority of our primary sources, the official histories, the private memoirs, the court documents, were written by the scholar official class. It is a narrative written by the victors. Eunuchs were often illiterate, and even those who were educated, like you, rarely left behind their own accounts. Their voices are almost entirely absent from the historical record. Trying to reconstruct a balanced view of eunuch influence is like trying to reconstruct a trial when you only have the prosecutor's notes. As the interview continues, you find yourself playing along with his narrative. A strange sense of detachment has come over you. You give him the answers he wants to hear. Yes, you were jealous of the general's popularity. Yes, you profited from the new taxes. You confess to crimes you did not commit alongside the ones you did. Why, perhaps it is a final, perverse act of control. If they are going to make you a monster, you will be the greatest monster they have ever seen. Or perhaps you are just tired, so profoundly weary that it is easier to agree than to argue. Herein lies a peculiar undebated aspect of these official histories. Some of the most damning confessions and evil monologues attributed to fallen eunuchs are recorded in these accounts. Did they actually say these things, or did the historian, in an effort to create a more compelling and morally unambiguous story, simply invent the dialogue that fit his villain? We can never truly know. The line between historical record and political propaganda is hopelessly blurred. You look at the young historian, his face so full of conviction and moral clarity. He sees the world in black and white, in loyal ministers and corrupt eunuchs. He has no concept of the grey, murky world of compromise and necessity that you inhabited. He doesn't understand the fear, the loneliness, the desperation that drove you. How could he? You tell him about your control of the Eastern Depot, embellishing stories of your cruelty. You describe your immense wealth, inflating the numbers to make your greed seem even more gargantuan. You are actively participating in the creation of your own legend, ensuring your name will be synonymous with evil for generations to come. It is your final, bitter legacy. The historian finally packs up his scrolls, his face alight with the grim satisfaction of a story well told. He thanks you for your candor and takes his leave, returning to the capital to write you into infamy. After he is gone, you sit alone in the library as the sun sets, casting long shadows across the floor. You have been defeated on every possible front. They have taken your power, your wealth, your family, your future, and now, your past. All that is left is a frail old body and a name that will forever be a curse. The story is over. The villains have been chosen. The historians have spoken. The seasons in the temple turn, each one indistinguishable from the last. The young historian's visit was the final ripple in the placid, stagnant pond of your existence. No, there is only the silence. Your body, which you have dragged through a lifetime of ambition and fear, is finally beginning to fail you. Your days are spent in a haze. The line between memory and dream blurs. Sometimes you are a boy again, feeling the dusty earth of your village beneath your bare feet. You can almost smell your mother's cooking, a faint, ghostly aroma. Then, the image shifts, and you are standing behind the dragon throne, the heavy scent of imperial incense in your nostrils, the weight of 1,000 secrets pressing down on you. You see the face of the old emperor, your protector, his eyes weary and kind. You see the face of Mei, your Yuishi, her youthful smile slowly fading into a mask of quiet sorrow. You see your son, Wei Yan, looking at you with a mixture of awe and fear. These ghosts are your only companions now. The physical frailties you have lived with your whole life are now magnified. The hormonal imbalance that gave you smooth skin in your youth now gives you brittle bones. A small stumble in the courtyard results in a fractured hip that never properly heals. You are now confined to your cell, a prisoner within a prison. The other eunuchs, the forgotten ones, become your caretakers. They bring you your thin rice porridge. They change your bedding, their faces impassive. You, the mighty Tsai Sui, are now as helpless as a newborn babe, dependent on the kindness of strangers you once would not have deigned to notice. One day, the abbot, himself ancient and stooped, comes to sit by your bedside. He holds a small, chipped bowl containing a dark, bitter liquid. It is a pain-relieving brew, a final mercy. As he helps you drink, he speaks in his soft, rasping voice. He tells you a story, a well-known Buddhist parable about a king who renounced his kingdom to seek enlightenment. It's a story about the vanity of worldly power and the importance of letting go. This brings to mind the final, existential question that historians and philosophers ponder about the eunuch experience. Did any of them, in the end, find a form of peace or redemption stripped of everything? Did they, like the king in the parable, achieve a kind of spiritual clarity, or was their fate simply tragic? A life of suffering or mutilation followed by an empty, meaningless end. The historical records, focused as they are on politics and power, are silent on this most human of questions. You listen to the abbot's story, but the words have little meaning. Your grand political struggles, the wars with the scholar officials, the accumulation of wealth, it all seems so small now, so pointless. You didn't renounce your kingdom, it was torn from you. There is no noble enlightenment here, only exhaustion. Your breathing becomes shallow. The world outside your small window begins to fade. You think of your Balbii, the shattered jaw, your lost hope for wholeness, and a strange thought occurs to you. Perhaps true wholeness was never about being physically complete. Perhaps the system that created you, that demanded such a brutal sacrifice for entry, was the thing that was truly broken, truly incomplete. You were just one of its countless damaged products. Your final thoughts are not of gold or power or revenge. They are of a single, small copper coin being pressed into your hand by your mother. A simple, useless gesture of love in the face of an impossible choice. It was the only real treasure you ever possessed. As the darkness closes in, you feel a sense of release. The heavy weight you have carried your entire life, the shame, the ambition, the fear finally lifts. The story of the 9,000 years is over. The boy from the village can finally go home. The endless, grinding cycle of the palace, with its whispered secrets and glittering cruelties, will continue without you. Another desperate boy from another poor village is likely already on his way to the cutter's room, ready to begin the journey all over again. But for you, the silence is no longer threatening. It is peaceful. You are finally, completely, at rest beneath the vast, indifferent sky. The world of the palace recedes, its vermilion walls and golden roofs dissolving like a dream at dawn. The echoes of chanted sutras fade away, replaced by a soft, gentle quiet. You can feel the hard edges of your journey softening, the sharp anxieties melting into a hazy peace. The weight of history, the burden of a life lived in the shadow of power, lifts from your shoulders, light as a feather. You are no longer in that small, cold cell. You are drifting. The air around you grows warmer, softer. You are floating in a place of quiet comfort, a gentle space between waking and sleeping. The story is over. Its characters have played their parts, and now the stage is empty, awaiting a new day. Let the sorrows and ambitions of that distant world fade. They are just whispers now, carried away on a soft breeze. Your mind is calm. Your body is heavy and relaxed, sinking gently into the warm, supportive surface beneath you. There are no more choices to be made, no more dangers to navigate. There is only this deep, profound stillness. You are safe. You are at peace, and sleep, like a soft, velvet blanket, is drawing ever closer, ready to welcome you into its gentle embrace. The end of the article. Good night.